Yo, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Strom, and I don't like raid farms. Now, before we get started, you've heard me say it on this channel before. As long as you are not lying to your audience, Minecraft is your world. Do what you want in it. It may not interest me to watch as a content consumer, but it's your prerogative of how you want to play the game. That being said, it is my prerogative that I don't enjoy stacking raid farms. I'm sure they're fun to design, but in practical usage, I just think they're way too overpowered for what they give you. Now, you may be saying, but Strom used TNT duping all the time, and TNT duping is infinite. You know, at least you have to build a raid farm and run it and not die, right? That is true, but I am also in support of removing TNT duping from the game as soon as we can get a source of renewable sand. It's been kind of teased by Mojang a lot in the past, but we've never actually gotten it. To the point where some of the Mojang devs have just very publicly stated that TNT duping is the solution for now. So that means I don't like raid farms because there's an alternative, right? Well, you may be saying, well, there is no alternative. There's not one all-encompassing farm that gives you all that. True. I just wish the drops weren't so crazy for the build effort that goes into them. Now, don't get me wrong, the design effort that went into especially early game raid farms and figuring out the stacking raid mechanics was, I'm sure, a slog and a very fun process for the designers. But once you get one in your world, I mean, I used to have a hardcore series on Twitch that I was doing, and then I finally gave in and built a stacking raid farm, and we had one on Syndicate because the other Syndicate members wanted one, and then it just took out a lot of fun of the game. And like I said, you can use one if you want. I just don't want to. I'm not going to do a 3 levels of raid farm. I'm not going to do a dirt cheap raid farm. I'm not going to do a block by block tutorial of the Kronos raid farm for you. I'm not going to be able to provide support for Ian's farm. It's just not what I do. If you're interested in joining No Raid Farm Gang, then what do you do to replace the raid farm? First up is emeralds. Stacking raid farm is going to have them coming out the and that's not what you want to hear. So what are our alternatives for this? Well, there's the first obvious one, which is a fox farm that can get you 3 emeralds per hour. Okay, I'm kidding about that, but in SKYBLOck, that is a legitimate option there. But your big one is going to be villager trading. I sometimes forget when we start talking raid farms, you forget just how many emeralds you can get from trading, especially if you do a void trader. So like the one we see here, I have a couple of tutorials on how you can set this up on my channel. You get yourself like either an iron farm, sticks from a tree farm, rotten flesh out of like a dirt cheap mob grinder, gold from a gold farm, or even just like a big pumpkin farm to trade with farmers. Doing this void trading, you can just get so many emeralds that you're not going to need anymore. And on top of that, the replacement for the XP, villagers are actually going to give you a bunch of XP. I mean, tools only take like 10 villagers to get repaired, something like that. I know from something I'm working on that I'm going to be releasing soon, trading with iron trades with 42 villagers. So getting them traded out, basically trading 12 times for iron with toolsmiths. 42 times gets you from level 0 to 45. So you're going to have plenty of levels to do whatever you need to do with that. Just keep some anvils in your trading hall, and then boom, you're ready to go. Next up, totems. All right, so the only way to get a totem is out of killing an evoker. That is the only way, but I kind of just enjoy just doing a raid once in a while in a village, just doing a legit raid. Put on your wings, get yourself an escape plan ready. If you don't have wings, something like that, and just walk into a village with bad omen, and they're kind of fun. And if you are looking to get that first totem and you're really concerned about not wanting to take on a legit raid, I mean, just a simple raid grinder is all you need to get yourself like 4 or 5 totems. Just get yourself a villager in a bed underneath this water and push them to a hole with some lava for the ravagers. They're going to fall down into the hole and you just smack away at their feet. There goes our evoker. And there's our 2 totems in a chest already. Next up, redstone dust. Arguably the second best or first best, depending on which team you're on, drop out of a raid farm. If you're on the technical side, I would say it's the first best because it gives you redstone dust. But there are other ways to get redstone dust. Of course, there's mining, but we don't want to take mining into account. There are other things. I mean, you can trade with clerics for it. So again, just take those emeralds and trade with clerics. Do a void trader with a cleric and just get so much redstone dust. You could do a hero of the village farm. I have this video on my channel. There's a world download there where you can down it. There's witch farms. I know in 1.18, the new hype map kind of nerfed witch farms a bit, but witch farms still have legitimate drops. You know, get yourself a no perimeter looting witch farm and you're still going to get drops out of it. And El Mango on his channel in his SKYBLOck series has been teasing this concept of a villager to witch converting redstone farm. I'm not sure what we're going to see come out of that, but if I know Mango, he usually doesn't keep on a project unless he sees some value in it. So the fact that he keeps mentioning that he's working on it means there might be something to it. So keep an eye out for that too. Next, we have glowstone. Again, obviously you can find in the nether, but we want to talk about farmables here. And that witch farm I mentioned earlier is still going to be able to get you that, but also trading with clerics. You can buy glowstone blocks from them and then break them with fortune and get a bunch of dust out of it. Gunpowder, again, depending on your situation, probably the third best drop that you're getting out of a raid farm. You're using it for TNT or you're using it for your rockets, especially on servers. They go through rockets like crazy. Well, once again, witch farm's still going to get you some of those. But on top of that, you have creeper farms and gas farms. Both are going to get you tons of gunpowder. Creeper farms are, in my opinion, really fun. And then on top of that, a gas farm is also going to get you gas tiers. So you can have a bunch of end crystals to spawn the dragon 7,200 times. But I hear what you're saying, you know, with that TNT. Also think about doing a blast chamber. One of my recent videos was on a dirt cheap blast chamber where I also featured El Mango's, what I'm calling super cheap blast chamber. It's very efficient on TNT. So if you don't want to do TNT duping, but you need the gunpowder to do it, check that out. Cause then it's 240 blocks per TNT. So you don't really need that much TNT at all. Bottles, really, usually the only reason to farm up bottles is when you're setting up your honey farm, because most honey farm designs just use a bunch of bottles to fill up inventories. So you just need a quantity to get started. You know, don't forget the good old fashioned trading with villagers. I know I keep repeating that, but it's kind of true. Get yourself either a void trader, or one of my upcoming videos is going to be a villager trading center. Get yourself some librarians in there that trade glass, and then just trade away. You'll get a bunch of glass out of those. Sticks, I think this is pretty obvious. I don't know what we have to really cover here. You chop trees, you farm trees, or you farm bamboo, and you get sticks. Sugar, probably even a more obvious one. I mean, sugarcane farm. Like, technically, you could do a witch farm and save those drops as well. I mean, all of these things right here, you could just do a witch farm and get these drops out of it. And last, but certainly, well, it is least, saddles. You can get saddles out of a raid farm, but I don't think you need a raid farm for this anyways. If you're building a stacking raid farm to do this, at least think about therapy. But it kind of seems that people have forgotten that you can just, once again, buy saddles from villagers. If you really need an abundance of saddles, I mean, set yourself up a leather worker inside of a void trader or inside of a trading hall. Who needs that many saddles? Am I really talking about saddles this much? Oh, okay. It's just, I mean, it was on the list. Do I keep talking about it? What else do I have to say about saddles? It's saddles. Now, with all that being said, you might be saying, well, that was a lot of different farms that you laid out. And a lot of times on servers, having a lot of farms running is going to slow down the server and ruin everyone else's experience. You are right, but so is a stacking raid farm. Stacking raid farms are also notoriously rough on your MSPT for a server. Single player, you're not noticing it because it's just you standing there right with all those entities and nothing else is loaded. So these other things, you don't have to run a raid farm just to keep it going. I mean, there's a lot of servers, especially you start up one of those big models, you're not going to be able to do much else. You might be able to have maybe one other farm running before you start running into some lag issues. With these other farms that have been laid out, since they're spread out and since the entity and collision count isn't as high, because that's kind of a big factor. Not only is it the count of entities, but how many entities are colliding with other entities. And that compounds, obviously, exponentially with the more entities that you have in a tiny area. Well, you don't have to worry about that with these other ones because those are spread out over an area. You don't have to run them all at the same time. You could run them all at the same time and not have kind of the same issues, but except, usually render distance on servers is also a problem. But oftentimes you do things like a void trader out in the end or something like that. You do just a small gas farm, you do your tree farm. They're things that are barely going to register on the MSPT. So at the end of all this, remember, this is all my personal opinion, my personal play style. If you want to play a different way, that is up to you. And if you are watching this video looking for ammo for someone else, by all means, leave. This is not meant to rip anyone apart who does that. It's just that it's come up on my channel a lot to, can you do 3 levels of raid? Can you do a tutorial on a raid? Can you do a dirt cheap raid? And it's just not something I am interested in doing. I do feel like the stacking is just too much. So let's remember to keep it civil down in the comments, because at the end of the day, we're playing a video game where a person is 2 blocks tall. Is this right here really anything to be taken too seriously? I don't think so. But before I wrap it up, remember, if there is something keeping you down, if you are not doing okay right now, there's something in your personal life, whether it's COVID, friends, family, relationship, whatever it may be, it's okay not to be okay. Keep your chin up because things will get better, I promise you. But in the meantime, don't worry about putting extra pressure on yourself to fake it till you make it. It's okay not to be okay. I'll catch you in the next one. Have a good one. Bye.